Hello, everyone. This is another Black Conservative from Ryan Bowling. Thank you all for joining me. I hope you all have had a great weekend. What I want to talk about in this video is a situation that happened in Kentucky, and this article is kind of old. It comes from May 16th, but I just discovered it in my research. And a school teacher in Kentucky was suspended after they had allegedly allowed a student, because for some type of historical assignment, allowed a student to dress as a KKK Grand Wizard. Yeah, dressed as a KKK Grand Wizard, and it put everyone in an uproar, needless to say. So let's get right into this article. It's a pretty short article. Let's get right into this. Let's see what this is all about, because clearly this is in bad taste. Okay. A middle school teacher in Kentucky has been suspended after he allegedly allowed a student to dress up as the Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan as part of a, quote, history lesson. The Lexington Herald Leader reports that Pulaski County Superintendent Patrick Richardson confirmed this week that he had suspended the teacher who has not been identified publicly and who is now under investigation by the Kentucky Educational Professional Standards Board. First and foremost, I'm extremely disappointed and embarrassed by this incident, Richardson said in an interview with the Herald Leader. I would hope our school and community realizes that this does not represent the character of our students and staff at Southern Middle School or our district as a whole. According to the local news station WYMT, the teacher gave students the assignment of dressing up as a famous historical figure and approved one student's request to dress as Nathan Bedford Forrest, the first Grand Wizard of the KKK. I never heard of him. I don't do no research on the KKK, so I never heard of him, okay? But here's the deal. It says the teacher's judgment drew harsh criticism from Whit Whitaker of the Lexington NAACP. What is your definition of hero or of a historical figure? He said to WYMT. Would he have done the same thing if he wanted to come as Charles Manson or Hitler? And that's basically the end of that article right there. It's pretty straightforward, pretty, out there, to the point. I don't know if the mainstream media covered this at any length, because like I said, this article actually was written in May 16th, May 16th. So maybe the article, maybe the mainstream news covered it, maybe they didn't. If they didn't really cover it, then there must be something else going on, because the mainstream media, which is left controlled, if they didn't cover it, it would have to be something else going on there. Because, it's like, okay, this is talking about the KKK. And the liberals are always hollering about racism and systemic racism and all of this other type of stuff. You would think that they would cover something like this extensively, if, in fact, they didn't cover it. So I really don't know. But I just want to say right up front that this is bad taste on the part of the teacher. Even if the teacher's intentions was good, okay? To approve of that is bad judgment, to say the least, specifically due to the fact that all of this hoopla about racism and this is racist and that's racist and all this wokeism is going on by the radical left. You would think that a teacher would be smart enough not to sanction one of their students to dress as a KKK member, even whether it was a grand master, grand poobah, whatever. It doesn't even matter. I mean, why would you allow that to be the case? And then one has to wonder about the young person that dressed as this KKK person. What were they thinking? What is their teaching? What background did they come from? For them to think that this person was an historical figure. When you think about an historical figure, as that person from the NAACP stated, when you think about an historical figure, do you think about an historical figure in the positive or the negative? Now, if you really look at it in a neutral sense, an historical figure can be positive and negative. Okay. Adolf Hitler is an historical figure. And see, well, we got to understand what a historical figure may mean to many people. An historical figure is any particular individual, okay, in history that, whether it be good or bad, is talked about a lot. This is a person that have jump-started certain ideologies and worldviews that have spread all over. And they're individuals that were very powerful and had a lot of influence and made a lot of changes, whether it be for the good or the bad. These could be deemed historical figures. The historical figures don't necessarily always have to be positive, okay? They don't always have to be positive. They can be someone negative, like this Grand Wizard guy. So you'd have to debate about whether or not this young man was thinking about this. This young person was thinking about this. But it begs the question about his parents, what his parents taught him. Did his parents know about this? Hey, I don't know. Did his parents know he was dressed like this? No one knows. The article doesn't go into detail with that. But I find it interesting that a teacher would allow this young man to dress like this. And then you have to think about the students in the class. Now here's the thing. Here's the thing that I'm looking at too. The whole idea of sanctioning this young man to dress as this Grand Master, Grand Wizard, rather, Grand Wizard. What was the response of the students in the class? Because the article doesn't go into that. I'm just speculating. What was their response? Was this a mixed class? Were there black students in the class? Were they upset about this or what? I would think something like this would be spread all over. But nevertheless, the judgment call for the teacher was a bad judgment call. Whether they intended well, whether they intended good, or whether they intended bad, or what, it's a bad judgment call, particularly in the atmosphere that we are living in right now. Why would you allow something like that? Now maybe someone could argue, well, we don't want to hinder the students, or he probably didn't want to hinder the students from, doing what they wanted to do, which makes me wonder, what if they decided to come dressed like Jesus? Would you have stopped it? Would they have stopped that? I would probably guess they would. And Jesus certainly was an historical figure. And as a matter of fact, he was more than likely the historical figure. And the reason why I say the historical figure of all other historical figures, because his impact was so great that time itself was even changed. Dates were even changed. Guess where we get the term BC and AD from? Jesus Christ was such a staggering figure in history that they changed the timeline concept. It's like AD means after the death of Christ. BC means before Christ was born. So clearly, Jesus Christ was an historical figure that actually did way more than anyone else did. He changed the actual course of time and how time is estimated. Now they kind of changed it up a little bit right now, but he was an historical figure that truly was an historical figure. Okay, but I can't help but wonder, had this teacher allowed any of the students to dress as Jesus Christ, would it have been any backlash to that? Don't know. But bottom line is, and ending this video, that was a bad judgment call. Bad judgment call, period. And this teacher should have thought about that, before they gave this sanction for this young individual to dress as a KKK member. We all know the history of the KKK. We all know what they're associated with. Now, let me start summing this up in this way. I will say this, that the power of the KKK, and I shared this with someone on Facebook some years ago, because this person is just so adamant, a black person, so adamant that KKK is just running everything and they just all over the place. And this individual says to me that where he lives or where he does his work at, he sees KKK members and he thinks that I'm denying that they're around. I never denied that the KKK is still around. I'm pretty sure there are members of the KKK that are still around, whether they're still wearing the hoods or whether they're doing things incognito, if you will, like they're more professional. They dress in suits and so forth and become elected officials. I'm pretty sure there are those kind of individuals in particular positions of power and authority. But my argument to him was that the power of the KKK is not as it was in the past, many decades ago, when they were physically going around lynching black people. Okay, lynching black people and stopping, because you got to think about it. See, people don't really study the history of the KKK. They know aspects of the KKK, but they don't really read up on the KKK's real purpose. The KKK was the political arm of the Democratic Party back in the days. That's what they were. They were the terrorist group, the terrorist arm, if you will, of the Democratic Party back in the days. And their sole purpose was to stop black people who were striving for upward mobility, was to stop them from striving for upward mobility, but also to stop them and discourage them from voting for the Republicans. Because the Republican Party, I'm not talking about the Republican Party of the day, because we can argue that, but the Republican Party of back then was created to oppose the Democrats who at the time who supported slavery. Okay, so the KKK was the terrorist arm of the Democratic Party at the time. And they persecuted anyone, both black and white, who supported the Republican Party. That was the main purpose of it, to keep blacks from voting for the Republicans and to keep whites from trying to help them. Okay, it wasn't just using the N-word and all that, and they just didn't like black people simply because they were racist. No, it was a reason behind that. Okay, and now the question is, that being the real history, if they're still around today, which I'm pretty sure they're around in certain areas, what kind of influence are they initiating towards black people? Because if you have black people that are moving up, that believe in education, that believe in being independent, that believe in that you should have identification for voting, you're okay, that that believe in these type of things, can we argue that, hey, that's something that the KKK, who may have infiltrated the political scheme in terms of making legislation, that's something the KKK would do? No, it wouldn't. To have a driver's license, black person to have some kind of form of ID to vote, that wouldn't be something the KKK would initiate. Certainly wouldn't be. It would be the opposite. But I'm not going to get into all of that. You get the point. The point is, do they have any influence today like they did back then? And my argument to him was, and argument to anyone else is today, is that they don't have the same power that they did back then. Give me some examples of that. I'm not talking about this wokey woke nonsense. Give me some examples of what the KKK is doing right now in the black community in terms of oppressing them and suppressing them. Because I could create a whole nother video on this. To be honest with you, I can create a whole nother video on this. Think about that for a moment. And that's what that's what I put forth before this young man. I said that they don't have the same influence that they once did. Okay. But the party that you're voting for, my brother, okay, that you so rah for is the original party of the KKK. And you tell people that. You tell black people, and they still vote for them. They still support them. Look, man, it's your choice. Do what you gonna do. I'm the one called the coon and all this, when in reality, who's really the coon? I'm just saying, I can go all day about what they did. How the Democrats opposed every law that was put in place to try to help black people. The first civil rights law was created in 1866. Primarily by Republicans. And guess who tried to stop them? The Democrats. And that's the reason why that particular law from 1866 did not really have a positive effect on blacks, because Democrats opposed it. It wasn't until the 1960s when Lyndon B. Johnson did that 1964 situation, civil rights bill, and signed that, where everybody was thinking the Democrats was really on board, when in reality, even then, most of the people that voted for the Civil Rights Act in 1964 were Republicans. Lyndon B. Johnson had to convince the Democrats to vote for it. Actually, that's something a lot of people don't know. Just saying. But that's what I wanted to say on this. What do you guys think about this teacher's judgment? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel. God bless you all. See you again.